Welcome in, everybody, to another edition of That Movie Show. Mike Wendt and Eddie McCabe here with you to talk Rambo First Blood.
Oh, man, I love this movie and I love this franchise, mostly because it heightens on ridiculousness as it persists.
I liked, I don't know if you were talking about this movie, but you definitely mentioned the phrase either in our Showgirls episode or on the radio show or something like that. But this series, as you say, goes from zero to pizza real quick.
Yeah, it goes from zero to pizza in 60 seconds, like hardcore, because we'll definitely cover more than just the original First Blood on this episode.
Right.
But yeah, the first one is easily the best movie of the bunch, mostly because it has like a message and a plot that's
a story.
That's like more endearing and kind of like, has a point and not just skin deep. And as they go on, the theme is still there, but it's more like, let's just shoot shit.
Exactly. So not even Rambo First Blood. The movie was just called First Blood.
Right.
It was based on the novel First Blood by David Morrell. It was released in the U.S. October 22nd, 1982. Had a budget of $15 million. Came back at the box office with $125.2 million. Not too bad. Directed by Ted Kotcheff. The screenplay was by Michael Kozoll, William Sackheim, and Sylvester Stallone. Apparently, fun fact, it went through 26 incarnations before Stallone came in and just rewrote the movie.
Yeah, that makes sense, especially at that time.
It stars Sylvester Stallone, Richard Crenna, Brian Dennehy, a very young David Caruso. Yeah! And it's definitely of the series, because the reason we're covering First Blood is Rambo Last Blood is released in theaters this weekend. But so of the series of 5, this is what I would call the most. It's a film.
Yes, this is
an
a
actual film. It's not an action flick. It's an actual film with a story and a message behind it. But as I said, it has spawned 4 sequels in a series of 5 movies, an animated series that consists of 65 episodes in the one and only season. That's excessive.
Yes, it is.
The original novel, and then 2 novelizations of First Blood Part 2 and Rambo 3. 2 comic books, and 11 incarnations of video games.
Yeah, of course it did. And loosely based on Contra.
Yeah, basically.
Contra basically does it. This film franchise and the Rocky film franchise basically kind of take the same parallels. Obviously you look at the fact that Sylvester Stallone is in both of them.
Sure.
And that's part of the reason why. But you look at it, and the first film is a great film. Right. And then we end up doubling down on the action end of things, and they just heighten on ridiculousness until we get to Rocky IV, which might be one of the best movies ever made.
with the Russian conflict.
Rocky diffuses the Cold War by boxing. I mean, it's a tale as old as time.
So let's get into First Blood, because they didn't draw First Blood, they did. Here's the thing. So the original cut of First Blood was 3.5 hours long.
Yeah,
Sylvester Stallone saw it, and he was so sickened by the cut of the movie, he tried buying it to destroy the movie.
Yeah,
he wanted to buy it and throw it away.
Kind of like what George Lucas did with the Star Wars special.
Exactly. But as a compromise, him and the producer went back and recut it to the 93-minute movie that we just watched. And basically what they did, apparently his Stallone's notes was less of me. He wanted less of John Rambo. So they took a lot of Rambo out of the movie and had the other characters tell the story. And he just kind of showed up. That's why it's like, at the end, when he has that long monologue when the colonel is talking to him and they're in the police station and he's surrounded, it's like, You think to yourself, shit, I haven't really heard him talk all movie.
Yeah, you just get kind of those, I'll give them a war they won't believe.
Right.
You get like those moments, but other than that, yeah, you just kind of see this like Bigfoot wild man and the mystique of John Rambo as opposed to John Rambo like internal monologuing and having like you get basically you basically get everybody else to paint the picture. It's really funny. At my house, there was like the people that like lived here before. They had a book subscription service for children.
Okay.
And a book that showed up was called "They All Saw a Cat." And so it's how different animals all saw this one cat. Okay. And so the mouse sees it different than the dog, and the dog sees it different than the bird, and so on and so forth. And that's kind of how this movie is, where you have all of these like police officers that are painting John Rambo as this like psychopathic murderer. Right. Where by the end, and he hits that monologue, it just means so much more because you finally get his point of view.
Nothing is over. Nothing. Yeah. I didn't draw first blood. They did.
Yep.
It's a terrible Stallone impression. I'm not going to do it anymore.
You sounded like a drunk sea captain.
Like a fucking drunk Popeye.
Yeah.
Nothing is over. Nothing is over. So this movie's been it was in production for a while, or at least pre-production for a while. Yeah. The novel was published in 1972, and then around 1975, 1976, it was purchased by the producers, and they had a bunch of people attached to it at one time. Oh, yeah. For example, the original casting choice for John Rambo was Steve McQueen.
Okay.
Back in the mid 1970s. They also at one time approached Al Pacino, who was actually in the late stages of doing Rambo, but he wanted Rambo to be more of a maniac and a mass murderer, and like he wanted to like change the whole thing, and that all fell apart.
Well, because this comes from an interesting like time in cinema too, where we were in that post-Vietnam, like, what it did to everybody time period. Right. And so the like political stance of this movie hits home a lot more, right, at the time. And that's basically what the novelization, like the novel in and of itself, is supposed to be far more into like the horrors of war, and specifically that of the Vietnam War.
And also more like coming home from war.
Right.
And what the soldiers had to deal with, which is also kind of peppered into his monologue at the end, which it was funny because Stallone was going for it.
Oh, he went for it.
And it's funny because I'm watching it and I had to go back and look what year this was released. Of course, it's released in 1982, which is the same year as Rocky 3. And the reason I went back, because I'm like, all right, I mean, he's in kind of the same body shape as Rocky 3, but it was when he started doing the teary monologue about his war buddies. I'm like, oh, this is like, he tried to do that with Mickey dying in Rocky 3. Right. He thought, okay, I'll just cry and blubber on a movie and they'll give me an Oscar.
Right. Well, because he had already won for Rocky.
Right.
Let's
go for it.
Yeah, just go for it. But this movie kind of fits that same, again, the parallels between this Rambo movie and the original Rocky are very, very similar, where it's like, yeah, this movie has a lot more punch and action and, violent drama, than, something like the Forrest Gump,
Yeah, exactly.
And so, if you were to do, the performance definitely shows, because there is a wide range of stuff that Stallone is asked to do here in this movie.
Yeah, and so it was funny because I guess I blended the two, because this wasn't the movie. It must have been First Blood Part 2 where he does the wound thing.
That's
with
3.
That's 3. Holy shit. Because that was like one of those moments that I'm like, okay, so he was in a cave and I see him in the cave and I'm like, where the fuck is this moment?
Yeah. Yeah, that's 3, where he gets like shot with something and he has a hole in his side. So to cauterize the wound, he puts gunpowder in there and you see the explosion out the back and front. Yeah, that's 3.
Wow. Okay, so I was way off on that one. So let's jump right into it. We enter with John Rambo, who clearly is just, you know, he's looking for his old war buddies.
Yeah, he's just basically traveling the countryside, righting wrongs that once were right.
But and not even. It's like, because he doesn't start as like a the hero that the sequels make him out to be. I mean, he's looking for his war buddies, and it's, again, to jump to the ending in that monologue, it's explained because apparently when they were in war, all they did was talk about what they were going to do when they got out of war. Right. So it was almost like he was looking to live out those fantasies that they have. Right. It's like, we were going to drive a red, convertible Chevy through the Vegas desert, and we were going to, do this, and we were going to do that. So it opens, he's walking onto it almost opens very similar to Inglourious Bastards.
Yeah, a little bit.
Where it's, with the exception of, instead of searching for Jewish people, he's searching for his friend.
Right.
He's not a Nazi looking for Jews to kill. He's an old war buddy looking for his old war buddy.
Right.
So he's looking for his friend Delmer Berry, who apparently had died of cancer. He got Agent Orange.
Yes, right. And so it was specifically linked to the Vietnam War.
Of course. So the war still killed him.
Yeah, right. The war still got him, and it's bad news. It still haunts John Rambo, even though he's been out for a few years.
But and even that, I'm assuming that was his family that Rambo.
Yes, I would assume so.
But even they were very standoffish. It's like he was he was calm, he was polite, he was just like, I'm looking for my friend.
Yeah, this movie could also
is the address he wrote down. And he told me to come here. And the woman was very much like, she dismissed her daughter. She's like, go into the house. Like he was a rapist or something like that.
Oh, yeah, no, it's weird because the first act of this movie is most definitely could have been renamed Everybody Hates John.
It was, and again, this is a completely different time because 1982, I was, I don't know, 3 years old, I guess.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know, negative.
You weren't even born yet. So I don't know what it was like for Vietnam veterans to come home and, as he says in the end, get spit on and called baby killer and all that stuff. I don't know what that was like, but they're really laying it on thick here.
Yeah.
Like the fact that, he's okay. We bypassed that whole thing because basically he's shunned by his friends.
Yeah. And he's just now trying to get something to eat.
He just walks into town. He's a hungry guy walking into town, and he's met by the sheriff in the town, Sheriff Teasle, played by Brian Dennehy. And
Dennehy.
He's like, right off the gate. I remember the line specifically. He's like, wearing that flag on that jacket is going to get you into trouble in this town. But I didn't get it. I still don't get it because it was just a green army jacket. It said U.S. Army and had an American flag on it.
Yeah.
Brian Dennehy, the sheriff, has his sheriff jacket with an American flag on it. What's the beef here, bro?
Yeah, right. You just seem like a dick for being a dick's sake.
He kind of was. And I did a little research. There was some subtext to the character. Apparently, the sheriff was a veteran of the Korean War, and he was maybe a little jealous that people had forgotten about the Korean War because of the Vietnam War, but whatever. It's still, I don't really get it. The subtext wasn't there in the movie. It was like a deleted character thing.
Right. Probably in the 3-hour cut.
Yeah, exactly. But he really just doesn't like him. He's like, where are you going? And Rambo says, north. They're in Washington State.
Yes, they are.
And he says, north. He goes, okay, well, I'll drive you. So they're in the car, and he's like, where are you going? He's like, Portland. He goes, well, Portland's south. You said you were headed north. And he's like, you got a place I can eat? And he's like, yeah, 30 miles out of town. And he's like, anything to eat here? He's like, no.
Yeah, what a dick.
So he crosses the bridge, says, all right, head that way, basically. Get out of town.
Yeah, get out of here.
You gross person.
Yeah, you gross hippie, even though you're a vet. And so, Rambo just decides, you know what? Fuck this. And just starts heading back into town.
And Brian Dennehy sees him in the rear view, spins the car around. What are you doing? And he doesn't even answer him at this point. So he, of course, draws down on his gun. He's like, get your hands on the car. Does the whole arrest thing.
Right.
Finds his knife.
Yeah. And it's a knife.
It's a big one. What are you going to do? Hunting. Okay. With a knife? Whatever. Anyway, so we arrest Rambo for literally nothing.
Yeah. Vagrants, I think is what they charge him with.
Well, they were gonna book him for vagrancy, resisting arrest, and concealed weapon. Yeah. And everybody's looking at a knife. Oh, what are you gonna do with a knife like this? Hunting. It's like, all right, we get it. Hunting, because he's gonna start hunting humans.
Yeah. Yes, he is.
So the whole booking process, I mean, it's definitely an 80s movie, because the absurdity of the booking process is just that. Absurd.
Oh, like, yeah.
Everyone in this town is a dick, and they just hate this guy on principle because I guess he didn't shave that morning and has longer hair. And I mean, his hair was no different than Martin Riggs, who was a cop in the same era.
It's weird because they're like, you're a hippie. And it's just like, how? What? Why don't... Yeah, I've given you no reason to hate me, but for some reason you do.
You do, and they really hated him. So they're going through the rigmarole of trying to book him. He won't give him his fingerprint. He won't.
Right.
They try to shave, like the whole cleaning him up thing. I don't know. I've seen it in a lot of movies. I don't get it, like where they hose down these people who they just arrested.
Yeah, right. It doesn't feel necessary to.
They're gonna try, like, and he didn't even have a beard. He had literally like a 5 o'clock shadow. Like, he didn't shave that morning.
Yes,
and they get a straight razor out. They're gonna shave him. I get it. It was all to facilitate the flashbacks to Vietnam, where the guys are cut. Yeah, the POW stuff where he's got the super mustache going.
Oh, yeah, the super 70s stash. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, you see that in movies all the time. They made fun of it in Super Troopers.
Yes.
Where they just hosed him down and then poured powdered sugar on him.
The lice hate powdered sugar. Delicious.
But yeah, so it just triggers a post-traumatic stress flashback for him of being in a POW camp in Vietnam. And so he freaks the fuck out and starts kicking ass.
Absolutely, and including one of the sheriffs in there, or deputies, whatever. He actually, it's the one that goes the rest of the movie with a bandage on his nose.
He actually broke his nose.
He actually broke his nose in that scene, and so the actor just literally had a broken nose the whole movie, so they just ran with it. He fucks everybody up.
Oh yeah, he does. It's great.
He just beats ass, and then takes off running. Not even that. Like he just hijacks a guy's motorcycle or dirt bike,
just takes off into the woods.
And again, I know it was an 80s movie. This was right on the heels of Blues Brothers, but this car chase was absurd. I'm watching it and I'm like, okay, the dirt bike stuff is very that could happen.
Right.
That could happen. The dirt bikes can get air and all that stuff. But Brian Dennehy's sheriff's car was bottoming out at every turn. It was getting huge air and then crashing down. And it's like, this thing would be all fucked up. 2 seconds.
Oh, yeah. The axle would have snapped on that bad boy. It jumped too.
It's a Caprice classic. It's not like a fucking...
Right.
You know what I mean? The shocks would be blown on the first fucking jump.
Oh yeah, no, you'd be out of commission. You'd be out of commission 2 minutes into that chase. Yeah, it's really funny because they chase him into the woods and they basically like lose him, and Rambo like basically gives him the warning of like, hey, like, leave me alone.
This movie, I mean, I even said it when I was watching it this morning. I'm like, this movie ended 15 minutes in reality,
right?
Because these local cops, no matter how pissed off they were that this drifter just beat their asses,
right?
They're not gonna go to war with them,
right?
But like you said, they go from zero to pizza. They go from he really got us to get the chopper. Let's fucking get him. Let's surround him and start shooting him and chase him. And it's like Rambo was gone. He was
in the woods somewhere.
It's like that. Any local cop, I guarantee you, would say, you know what? He beat us. If he comes back, we'll arrest him. Basically, what the colonel says to him, it's like, just let him go and put an APB out, and he's gonna get a job at a gas station somewhere, and you pick him up then. Don't fuck with him.
Yeah, but right. Right, because then you start finding out all the things. It's like, oh, he's a Medal of Honor recipient. He's a Green Beret. Oh, he's a giant, like, Boy Scout murder machine.
Yeah, I mean, he's literally like Kevin McAllister, all grown up.
Yeah. I mean, the most devastating thing in this movie is that booby trap where he takes the wooden sticks and it just chops into the guy's thighs. It's like, look, if that's what we're dealing with, fuck this. I am a cop in a nowhere town in the middle of Washington State. Everybody thinks when they go Washington, they assume DC, not the state. I don't care. I'm a cop in Washington State.
And he just starts methodically picking off. And this scene has been spoofed and redone by like everybody when they do this stuff. It's always the Rambo spoof where you see the character with the headband and they're just picking people off one at a time, and that's what he does. He takes one guy out, but he doesn't kill any of them. And he makes a point when he gets to Brian Dennehy, because he's methodically getting one after the other after the other after the other, and just taking them out of commission. Taking a leg out, breaking an arm. The booby trap with
not murdering.
Exactly. And then he gets to Brian Dennehy, knife to throat, and he's like, just leave me alone. Just walk away. I didn't kill any of you. Blah, blah, blah. I don't want to kill anybody. Now, granted, the asshole from the station who was choking him out and really beating on him and stuff, he was the one in the helicopter that was shooting at him while Rambo's hanging off a cliff.
Yeah.
And another just movie, it was no realism. It was straight out of 80s action movie, because this again,
that chopper in there.
Immediately this local cop is in a helicopter hanging off the side with a rifle, and Rambo's hanging on the side of a cliff, and he's just taking pot shots at him, yelling at the helicopter driver that he's like, hold it steady. And he's like, I can't, dude. We're in some, I think he said like thermal tunnel or something like that, or whatever,
near the mine.
And the guy literally looks at him. He's like, if you don't hold this chopper steady, I'm going to fucking kill you. And I'm like, you're a local cop. What's going on?
And this is your coworker, maybe?
And this is just for a vagrancy charge? Come on. So Rambo like throws a rock or something that hits the windshield. The pilot kind of jerks the thing, and that cop falls out of the helicopter and smashes his head, dies. He's a bloody mess. Yeah. And Rambo goes down. He steals his jacket. He steals his gun. He steals his radio, takes off into the woods. There's a little bit of shooting back and forth.
Ends up in the mine.
And he ends up in the mine. And so Dennehy's crew is like getting all their medical attention. And that's where we get the National Guard comes in. The state troopers come in. Now we got a manhunt going on. And this is where Richard Crenna's character comes in. Colonel, what's his name? Trotman.
Trotman. That's right.
Trotman
comes later.
Yeah.
Which is really funny, because when we get to Colonel Campbell, there's a lot of fun stuff that ends up happening with that character in pop culture video games.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So Colonel Trotman shows up, of course, perfect timing, and basically lays out that he's Dr. Frankenstein and this is his monster.
Yes.
He has created an all-out killing machine that will ruin your crew if you like. He's like, we got 200 men surrounding him. He's like, you don't have enough body bags.
Yeah.
You're all gonna die, which, sounds like a direct threat. That's arrestable. But anyway.
Yeah.
Yes. So they basically not only have the state troopers, not only have the National Guard, they got the reserve crews coming out. They got the local hicks with their rifles coming out. And there's a scene where there's this kid, looks like a teenage kid who's got a rifle. He spots Rambo. Rambo fucking tackles him and holds a knife, and you see how young the kid is. And Rambo throws his gun away and lets the kid run off. Immediately the kid calls his dad and all that stuff, and it was straight out of Deliverance, because you just hear, and it's like, I don't know why they're in they're in Washington State, but somehow everyone adopted a Southern accent for about 5 minutes. Yeah. Where it was just, come on, Skeeter, we got him. Take some shots. And everybody's trigger happy in this movie.
Oh, yeah. They're all just trying to murder this guy for some reason.
Immediately, guns start firing. Someone in charge yells, cease fire, and they don't stop.
Yeah,
never.
Right.
They never stop. Like, so they trap him in a mine. and it's all like the Army Reserve guys, and he still has a machine gun.
Yeah.
So they're just like literally they radio back like, all right, we got him in this mine. Dennehy's like, I know where it is. We're on our way. Don't kill him. Don't shoot. Just surround him and keep him there. I want him alive.
Yep.
Cut to every single guy there firing all the bullets in.
Yeah, right. They're gonna run out of bullets before they even hit anything.
So Rambo just returns fire. He just starts spraying back until he's out. He's done with bullets. But these are weekend warriors, for lack of a better term. These are reserve guys. These, like the guy says, because the lieutenant is all gun happy. He's like, all right, you go in. And the guy's like, fuck that. He's like, you go in. He's like, I do this part-time. I'm not getting killed for anybody. No. They're like, they said he was a Green Beret. No, I'm not doing this. These guys kill people for breakfast. No. And so the guy, all of a sudden, he's like, who's got the rocket launcher?
Yeah, right.
And it's like, all right, Johnson, or whatever the hell your name is, fire in the hole. And they do. Their orders were not to shoot, not to kill
surround him.
Get the rocket launcher.
Yeah. First of all, how do you have a rocket launcher?
Seriously. who like just, and that was, it was a search party.
Yeah.
Yes. Why was that like a go-to weapon? It's like, I get it. Everyone's got M16s in this movie. Everyone's got an M16 in the sidearm. I get that. Yeah, especially he's known violent criminal as it was reported. Okay, fine. The guns I get.
But why'd you bring the rocket launcher?
Who's grabbing the rocket launcher for
How
this?
did you get one?
That's the more.
How'd you get one?
Apparently, the Army Reserve in Hope, Washington, is all about their rocket launchers.
Of course. Of course. They have to be, right? Because when you're fending off like bear ghosts,
right?
You just gotta, because I'm assuming that's what you would need a rocket launcher for in Hope, Washington. A ghost bear.
A ghost bear. Yeah. Man bear pig.
Yeah, man bear pig. Bigfoot. You know? So John Rambo fits into that class.
They blow the entrance to the mine to smithereens.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they start posing for pictures with it. Not with like him, because he escaped. They didn't know he did. They figured he's dead. And they even start celebrating. Like Dennehy and the Colonel go to a bar over beers thinking he's dead. And it's like, there's no body. There's not even body parts.
Right.
There's not even blood. They're taking pictures with pieces of burnt wood like they accomplished something. Yeah.
Best case scenario, you collapse the mine and he's trapped in there alive.
Yeah, exactly.
Or worst case scenario.
What the hell was that?
It was best case scenario.
Or worst case scenario.
I like it. So
John Rambo gets out of the mine because
he does.
John Rambo.
Of course he does. He goes hunting. He kills a boar and he's cooking him and eating. And well, I think that was actually earlier in the movie because that was when the Colonel radioed to him and he's like, "Hey, buddy."
Talking. Yeah, and they were talking. Fun thing about the Colonel.
Mm-hmm.
So that Colonel inspired Colonel Trotman. Yeah. He basically inspired the character of Colonel Campbell from the Metal Gear Solid franchise.
Oh, okay.
So he basically is your like confidant in the first two games.
Gotcha. So he's the guy sending you out into the shit.
Yeah, he sends you out into the shit, and
gotcha.
And there's a very in the first game, the first Metal Gear Solid game, he is very much reminiscent the relationship of this and John Rambo in the series.
Okay, there you go. I did not play any of those games. I know that I've seen the commercials for, I guess, Batista's like the main star of the new one.
No, that's Gears of War.
Oh, what the hell's the difference?
Very different. One is a action Hulk up, shoot 'em up, and the other one's like a sneak around game.
Okay.
Okay. They're very
huge difference.
Yeah, one you're supposed to like kick the door in and start shooting everybody. The other one you're supposed to like sneak through the air vents and not get spotted.
And which one's which?
Metal Gear Solid is the sneaky one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like a sneaky game. It sounds like a spray 'em down game.
Look, here's the thing. I'm going to send you the super simplistic, it's a comedy song.
Okay.
About the very simple plot of Metal Gear Solid, and it is not. It is not a simple plot at all. It's very complex. Hideo Kojima, the director of that, loves movies, and It's very odd.
All right. Fair enough. I will give it a watch. Where were we?
So I think he's about to blow up the police station.
Yeah. So Rambo escapes, and he's got a lot of guns.
Yeah.
And so, okay, I remember what it is. Okay, so he gets out of the woods because they all think they've won. They think
they leave.
Mission accomplished. We don't even need a body. We're just going to go celebrate.
Yeah.
Good for us.
We're going to throw a banner on a boat.
It's Miller time. Mission accomplished. Yeah, exactly. And so Rambo waits till the morning because, of course, we need natural lighting because budget restraints. And
it's an 80-something movie, of course.
Yeah, exactly. So he jumps on the back of an army truck, which I guess is going away from, like, they're just packing stuff up. They think they've won. So he hijacks that and kicks the guy. He's like, "What do you got in the back?" And the guy's like, "M50s and all this other stuff, like big guns, basically. Big guns, lots of bullets." So he kicks that guy out of the car and he drives to a gas station, knocks over all the gas pumps there, takes a bunch of guns, takes the iconic gun that was sold with every Rambo toy, and blows up the gas station. So that alerts Brian Dennehy. It's like, oh, he's not dead. And he's got the colonel sitting. He's like, "You knew he wasn't dead." He's like, "He doesn't die. He dies hard." What?
Different movie. Different movie.
And
you have to wait for the Expendables for that one.
So they start mounting up again, and Rambo's going around town, just kind of basically he's shooting out all the electrical things to cut all the lights to the town.
Yes.
Dennehy goes to the roof. Go. Oh, wrong movie again. So he goes to the roof of the police station to scope out Rambo. Rambo is at the same time scoping out him. So Rambo goes into the gun store because those exist back then. And not only gun store, but these things have like tubs of gunpowder.
Yes, they do. You didn't know that? You know how like hipsters now like roll their own cigarettes?
They used to make their own bullets?
You used to make your own bullets in the 80s, in the early 80s.
With tubs of gunpowder. So he grabs a few supplies that he's going to need to kill everybody. Yep. And then he spreads this gunpowder all over the place, and he's throwing gas cans all over the place and just lights it up. And it's basically like the worst 4th of July ever because it's not only fireworks, but it's including hails of bullets and shrapnel getting shot out of a gun store. Brian Dennehy's kind of creeping around. He's like, oh, there he is. So Rambo goes to the police station, shoots that up. Brian Dennehy is up on the roof, shoots down through the skylight, and then Rambo shoots up at him through the ceiling because those ceilings suck. Yeah, and Dennehy gets shot in the legs area, it looked like, and then falls through the skylight, meaning through glass.
Oh, yeah.
Hits a table, hits the ground, and is laying there still alive.
Oh, yeah, because the 80s.
Okay. Rambo's got the gun pointed at him, and Dennehy's basically begging him to kill him at this point. And the colonel shows up because he was just kind of hanging out by the coffee machine waiting for that to brew while this was all going down. He's like, "Hey, John, don't do it." It's like,
don't do it, John.
How did you get here?
Yeah, why did you know that this is where everything was going to go down?
More importantly, why did it take you so long to stop this from happening?
I know.
Like, if you knew he was going to be here, you clearly were just hanging out, waiting for your coffee, and you saw him shoot the guy through the ceiling.
Right.
And waited until, okay, I'll stop him right before the kill shot.
Yeah, well, because, Dennehy's a dick, and he needs to learn a lesson, but I can't let him die, because he's law enforcement.
So this is where we get the big monologue. It's over, Jenny. Nothing is over, that whole thing. And then we go into, all his buddies in Vegas and cars, and we were going to drive that fucking car and all that stuff. And
yeah, right.
It's funny because Stallone's speech pattern is like so Stallone, for lack of a better term. It's not even an accent. It's him. It's almost like a speech impediment that like you don't hear full sentences. You just pick words out. Yeah, like I didn't know what they were doing.
Adrian, boxing.
Yeah, and it's like I didn't know what they were doing with the car, but I knew it was a red Chevy.
Yeah, right. Something about Chevy.
Something about a red Chevy was happening. Something about Las Vegas. Right. Word. Vegas, Vegas, word, word, word. You know what I mean? It's like there's a lot. You need to watch Stallone with subtitles. Basically, is what this movie's telling you.
Well, that's another joke. Is just Stallone with subtitles.
Exactly. So after that whole thing, because he showed him outside, he's like, yeah, the whole law enforcement world is outside. Yeah, by the way, they all showed up out of nowhere.
Of course they did.
It's like he spent all this time shooting up your town. You cleared the streets. He then blew up another store, and then he shot up the police station. Yeah. Then everyone shows up. Nobody was around before that. It was him and Brian Dennehy in the town square of Hope, Washington. Yep. But now the world is there. And he's like, there's no hope. Meanwhile, Rambo's still going to the arsenal. He's like, I'm gonna kill them all. Now, here's the moral dilemma looking back at this movie. Who's the real bad guy in this? I get the original bad guy was Dennehy, and this movie started out as everyone hates John, but he does, by the end of this movie, he's in kill mode.
Oh, yeah.
So the switch has been flipped. He's in kill mode, and he's ready to shoot everybody.
If I'm not mistaken, the colonel coming in to talk him off the ledge is the Hollywoodized ending of this movie. Yes. Because in the novel, he basically does try to fight everybody and dies.
There was two endings that Stallone wanted, but as you said, the studio wouldn't allow. The first one was that where he just comes running out of the police station, firing at all the cops, and dies.
Yeah.
The second was he kills Dennehy, and then Colonel Trotman has to kill him.
Yes. Yeah, I do remember.
Those were the two endings that Stallone wanted. Now, of course, 2019, 4 sequels later, I'm guessing he's glad that the studio didn't go with those, because now we have Rambo 2, 3, and 4, and 5.
Yeah, right.
He's got a franchise.
And so, in the novel, right, where Rambo dies, it speaks more to the tragedy of post-traumatic stress and and all that, and so it fits.
And realistically, I think it would have been a better ending.
Right.
The natural fit of this was, it felt like to make him a martyr, to make him, he was just minding his own business. Now he's dead.
Right. Exactly. He was.
It's almost like, I forget the character's name, but the black guy in Night of the Living Dead.
Oh,
he's the last survivor, and they still kill him.
Right.
I mean, that was the point of the movie. That was the message on racism. And that was the point of this movie, was to tell the story of how these veterans were treated. But Hollywood saw a franchise. They saw Stallone. He was already on his 3rd Rocky movie. Yeah, we can definitely get 2 more of these out of him.
Yeah, because if you look at the beginning of Rocky 2, I mean, not Rocky 2, Rambo 2, First Blood Part 2, which is a really funny, stupid name.
First blood again, second time, second blood.
First blood the second time.
At one point they were saying, okay, it has to be called Second Blood, right?
Yeah, of course. Of course.
No, First Blood Part 2. That makes no sense.
It makes no sense. We bleed again.
And they even added Rambo to the front of it, because this one's First Blood. Yeah. And then it's like, but they've kind of tried to, in a lot of, if you look at a lot of different, websites and stuff like that, they've tried to kind of retcon the title, kind of like how they've done with Raiders of the Lost Ark, how they've tried to retitle it Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Right.
They've tried to retcon it to Rambo First Blood. And then, but it's not. It's First Blood.
No, it's First Blood. Yeah. But the beginning of the sequel is so stupid, because it's like him working on a chain gang, and the colonel shows up and is like, look, I got you out of jail. Something, something, something. We're going to help the government. Something, something. And it's just like, what? Really? I don't think that's the way that works. And I'm pretty sure the army would just pick somebody else if this asshole was in jail.
Little did we all know that Rambo First Blood Part 2 inspired the Hobbs and Shaw franchise.
Yeah, of course it did.
We need you to save the world again.
Like, really?
You don't have any other options? This guy's not even stable.
The funniest part about it is the sequel, he basically is a dick to law enforcement and superiority again.
Yep.
And he basically just walks away. Do you remember the sequel to the second one?
I haven't watched it recently, but yeah, this isn't if we're talking realistically, he'd be in a padded cell.
Oh, absolutely.
Plain and simple. He would never see the light of day again. He would be 24/7 straitjacketed, padded cell with he would medication time. He'd be in the cuckoo's nest.
Of course.
He would be so sedated that that he wouldn't be able to think of a gun, let alone fire a gun.
Well, so basically at the end of 2, he comes back and he just like hates everything government and just like walks off into Burma. Like he like, walks off into Burma.
Isn't that where we find him in 3?
That's where we find him in 3, and the colonel's like, "Look, here's the deal. We got to go take down fake Saddam Hussein."
You again?
Yeah. Look, I know that you're bare knuckle boxing in this random like Tibetan town, but I need you, John. And he's like, "No, I'm not going to do it." And so then the colonel gets lost, and so Red, I'm pretty sure from that 70s show, shows up and is like. He's like, "Hey, your buddy Colonel that wanted you to go along on this mission, well, because you didn't help him, he got caught and he's getting tortured by fake Saddam Hussein." And it's just like, "Oh no, now I gotta save him." And then that's where we get the like, "Oh, I got shot and I have to like use gunpowder to blow open my wounds." And then basically after that, he like leaves just again to like go find peace, but he doesn't because he's like in another like war-torn country where he has to save a bunch of children who decided it was a good idea to just do like a peacekeeping mission into like the equivalent of North Korea.
Hell.
And so are you bringing guns? Then you ain't saving shit. It's like, holy God, John. But
so
then
we got Rambo Last Blood, which I believe is Mexican cartels now.
So basically what ends up happening at the end of Rambo is somehow he like finds peace, I guess. And
he always finds peace. I mean, he's a very peaceful human being. Despite killing everybody.
Yeah. And so he decides to come back to the United States. Because after he's going to go return to his family's like ranch in Texas. And that's where we find him in Rambo Last Blood, is that he's on his family's ranch in Texas.
I gotta see the movie, obviously.
Yeah, I'm gonna go see it after this.
Oh, are you going tonight?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, that's funny. It's funny because you mentioned the chain gang thing, and again, I get it. They have to do something in movies to get this character out. But it just made me think because I just saw this past week 3 from Hell, Rob Zombie.
Okay, yeah.
And the review I'm going to have up on this feed later in the week. And there's a scene in it where they build the whole beginning of the movie as the Devil's Rejects are the most insane, violent criminals in the world.
Yeah, of course.
Yet, cut to Otis, played by Bill Moseley, working on a chain gang in the middle of the world, just, shackles and a shovel, digging a ditch, and it's like, no. He'd be Hannibal Lecter. He would He would be in a windowless cell. He would not have communication with anybody, let alone be on an open air pickup truck with the rest of the regular criminals going out to the desert to dig a ditch. But whatever. We needed an escape scene. But
yeah, of course.
Three from Hell coming to the That Movie Show spinoff Movies with Mike on this feed. That's pretty much Rambo First Blood.
Yeah, that's Rambo First Blood.
It was a movie that should have ended 15 minutes in. But luckily it wasn't a 3.5-hour movie. It was a very nice, tight 93-minute movie.
This could have been a 15-minute short film, and that would have been nice.
Yes, it would have. It would have been a nice statement on the treatment of veterans of the Vietnam War and how they're mistreated by the police and the people and the citizens of the world, but it wasn't.
Yeah, unfortunately, it wasn't a 3-hour insistent, nauseating piece on the treatment of Vietnam veterans.
Yeah, but I'm actually looking across all the Rambo movies, and they've all done a really good job of keeping the time down. Rambo 3 was the longest at 1 hour 42.
I think that that is a Stalloneism. Like, Stallone movies, they are in and they are out.
He gets it. He knows the audience. He knows he's not making Shakespeare here. He knows he's not, despite all the message stuff that we already talked about in the first one, he gets it. This is a high-octane action movie that you don't need 3 hours. I'm looking at you, Hobbs and Shaw. You don't need 3 hours, even as bonkers as all the action sequences was. You don't need it. This Deadpool is another great example. Kept it tight. Know the core audience we want. In, out. Give us laughs. Give us violence. Give us whatever. Make it tight.
In and out. Less is more.
Right. Less is more. And speaking of less is more, have you come up with a name for your solo review show?
No, I haven't.
God damn it, Eddie.
I know. Well, it's so terrible because the other one was so perfect.
It really was.
The Stryker Cinema series was the best.
It really was.
Can't do that anymore.
So we're still on the hunt. You know what? If you all out there have an idea for what Eddie's solo review show should be, tweet at us, at Mike Wendt, at the Eddie McCabe, and let us know, hashtag that movie show, what Eddie's solo review show should be. Mine is Movies with Mike.
Hustlers is alliteration.
Exactly. It's easy. Hustlers is already available. And if you've listened to it, cool. If you haven't, tell your friends it's up there. And 3 from Hell is coming up later in this week. That'll wrap us up. Thanks for joining us. Coming up next week, what do we have? I believe it's the 40th anniversary of Dawn of the Dead, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
That sounds about
we brought it up already in the show.
Yeah.
We did Night of the Living Dead.
We mentioned Night of the Living Dead, but let me just quickly look here because we're coming into October, which of course is Halloween season. And yes, it's going to be the 40th anniversary of Dawn of the Dead coming up next week on That Movie Show. Of course, you can now get that movie show, the radio version, on the audio feed. So if you subscribe to any and all podcasts, thank you. If your friends don't, tell them to subscribe. We are available everywhere. Facebook.com/ThatMovieShowTV. We have the video version there. We have it on YouTube, at Mike Wendt, at the Eddie McCabe, hashtag That Movie Show on social media. And of course, thatmovieshow.net is the website where you can get pretty much all of our stuff. Eddie, any last comments?
Go see movies.
Go see movies. Rambo Last Blood in theaters now. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week with Dawn of the Dead.
Bye, everybody.